If you're not living under a rock, then you're aware of the Russia-Ukraine war. Here's a new update on this global upheaval. After securing the Patriot missile defense system, which was once forbidden, Ukraine is positive about the transfer of ATACMS. In addition, the country is looking forward to NATO authorization. Are you curious to know the entire story? Before we begin, here's a knowledge check for you. What does NATO stand for? Comment your answers below. And let's jump right into the video. What is ATACMS? The MGM-140 Army tactical missile system is called ATACMS in the short form. It is a surface-to-surface, and it's missile manufactured by Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin is in the U.S. defense company. It has a range of up to 300 kilometers and comes with solid propellant. It is 4 meters high and 610 millimeters in diameter. This missile can be fired from the tracked M270 multiple launch rocket system, also known as MLRS, and the wheeled M142 high mobility artillery rocket system called HIMARS. An ATACMS launch container has a lid that is patterned with 6 circles. It is like a standard MLRS rocket lid, but the only difference is it contains only one missile. A similar pattern makes it challenging for enemy intelligence to single it out as a high-value target. This controversial missile was made possible by the doctrinal shift of the late Cold War. It rejected the indispensability of an early nuclear strike in the event of a Cold War on the Warsaw Pact forces. The ATACMS missile was designed to destroy enemy surface-to-air missile defense systems. It was designed by blanketing them with hundreds of single bomblets. The Pentagon has 2 types of ATACMS. One is the cluster weapon, and the other one carries a single explosive charge. The high dew rate of the bomblets carried in the weapon versions is the reason why the Pentagon would provide allies with only the type that contains a single high explosive charge. It is also the oldest surface-launched missile that's currently in service. Its replacement prototype is currently being tested at the White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. It is called the Precision Strike Missile. It'll fly to ranges that were previously barred by the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. If you're wondering why it's such a sensitive issue, it all boils down to the concern of the White House that Ukraine would use the long-range missile to strike targets deep inside Russia. This may trigger Putin, and he may take the war to the next level by invading a neighboring NATO country. In President Biden's words, they're trying to avoid a third world war. But Zelensky is persistent in its demand for the weapon. He has repeatedly clarified that his intention is not to strike down any Russian cities or hurt citizens. ATACMS is a long-range missile and is pronounced as ATACMS. It can strike targets that are 190 miles away. Its warhead contains about 370 pounds of explosives. It can also be fired from the HIMARS mobile launchers. It was provided to Ukraine by the United States, and older M270 launchers were sent from Britain and Germany. Ukrainian officials say that the missile could help them regain Crimea. Crimea is a part of Ukraine that Russia seized in 2014. But Pentagon officials are sticking to their argument that they're already giving Ukraine the weapons it most needs, such as guided multiple launch rocket systems. A senior Pentagon official stated that the guided rocket sent by the United States to Ukraine can reach most of their targets, including targets in Crimea. What did Dmytro Kuleba say? Dmytro Kuleba is the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Ukraine. He's positive that Ukraine could get drones and ATACMS ballistic missiles. The missiles will have a range of about 300 kilometers in the upcoming year. However, he said that any such decisions made by Western countries directly depend on what's happening on the battlefield. Kuleba said that the Army has certain needs. For example, if he was offered to take 100 tanks or 100 howitzers now, he would choose 100 howitzers now and 100 tanks tomorrow. He said that's because it's important to understand the real need of the Army and the critical situation it is facing in an interview with RBC Ukraine. Therefore, it's clear that the country needs weapons like tanks and howitzers. Undoubtedly, Ukraine would lobby for the Army tactical missile system that is ATACMS. But does it get the authorization for the ATACMS from the US-led NATO? It depends on the battlefield situation. He was asked if Ukraine could secure the PAC-3 Patriot missile defense systems, but there is no word on the ATACMS. However, it's known that the PAC-3 Patriot missile system was obtained after months of indecision. Ukraine's foreign minister drew some interesting parallels to the situation. He said that they fought for the Patriots. They fought for more than a year to get them. Everyone said that the Patriot was good. But what about tanks and ATACMS? When we get tanks and ATACMS, they'll say that it's good. But what about aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines? And what happens after we get them? The US and its European allies were not ready to supply the advanced Patriot missile defense for fear of escalation with Russia for several months. Later, the US finally authorized the transfer, fearing the Russian drone and missile attacks. The Ukrainians would stand all these attacks. The decision was taken even though Russia warned that the missile system would become a target for Russian aggression. Kuleba said that it's important to stay in the rational field, providing patriotism is not just another decision. There's a complex psychology involved with it. When Ukraine first started talking to America about Patriots, their first response was a clear-cut no. He believes that there are no other themes that are more complicated than Patriot. They may not be implemented on the same day or simultaneously. It is like a computer game where you open one level after the other. Ukraine's plea is supported by several military veterans and experts. For example, the former commander of the U.S. Army Europe, Ben Hodges, said Ukraine needs the MGM-140 Army tactical missile system. Why does Ukraine need ATACMS? Russia is launching the second significant wave of attacks on Ukraine in over a week. Then aerial raids rained hundreds of cruise and ballistic missiles. The raids in the last 2 days have been led by Shahed 136 drones. They're also known as Garant 2 to the Russian military. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the enemy is terrorizing the citizens of Ukraine day and night. Kamikaze drones and missiles are attacking all of Ukraine, and the enemy is attacking our cities, but it won't break us, added Zelensky. Ukraine has been caught off guard by this unexpected increase in drone attacks. These attacks have overwhelmed its air defenses and surface-to-air missile systems. As a result, Ukraine is in the process of launching the most lethal missile to combat these unfathomable drone attacks. Is ATACMS a possibility for Ukraine? The Ukrainian foreign minister's remarks on ATACMS are interesting. They come days after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky paid a rare visit to the U.S. and lobbied for military aid in the United States Congress. As a result, there's speculation that he has requested ATACMS and Reaper drones. Moreover, he said they'll be used to carry out long-range strikes. President Biden was asked about equipping Ukraine with long-range missiles in the White House joint press conference. He said that the idea that America would give lethal weapons to Ukraine is different from what's going on there. This would be a prospect of breaking up with NATO and even the European Union. But he added that the rest of them didn't want another world war. Maria Zakharova is a Russian foreign ministry spokeswoman. In a briefing, she said, if Washington decides to supply longer-range missiles to Kiev, then it'll be crossing a red line and become a direct party to the conflict. NATO members are concerned that if Ukraine was armed with a lethal missile, Russia would come up with a hard-hitting move. It would trigger an angry response from the Kremlin, where lethal weapons could be deployed by Moscow against Kiev. This could play the way to another world war, which is the last thing every country wants. On the other hand, the U.S. decision to supply the Patriot missile defense has given a positive sense of ATACMS to Ukraine. Also, Pentagon officials have sent the Ukrainian military an array of equipment since Russia invaded Ukraine. It totals billions of dollars, but ATACMS is now testing the limits of U.S. support to its ally. What do you think of this ATACMS missile? Also, the answer to the question we have asked is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Comment your views about NATO's concern.